going to be looking at today, the title is Driven by Innovation, Powered by AI. Unless you've been hiding under a rock, you will have noticed there's been a slight bit of interest around AI, both in terms of humanity, in terms of the future of the workplace, but what we're going to look at today is the future of workplace learning. As I said, my name's Mike Byrne. I'm the VP of Sales for EMEA at Docebo. Some of you will have heard of Docebo, I would imagine. Probably you would associate us with being a learning management system provider. We do much more than that. We're going to get into that a little bit later on in terms of looking at some of the future of our solutions that are driven by AI. And at this point, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Fernando, as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fernando Martin. I'm the team lead for solutions consulting here in EMEA. I've been with Docebo for the past 3 years, based in different locations, and innovation and AI. I think we've got a really interesting session ahead of us, Mike.
I'm sure we have. So let's crack on. Right, we're going to start with a question. I know there's a little bit of interaction going on already, but I'm interested to know, if you are, how are you using ChatGPT or generative AI as part of your workplace learning tech solutions at the moment? Maybe you're using it as part of a corporate rollout already. Maybe you're using it as an individual within the work that you do within the confines of workplace learning. But maybe we can get some responses to that. Andrew, in the interest of time, I'm probably going to we'll move on, but we might come back to this a little bit later when we can start to see some of those questions coming through.
Absolutely, yeah. We're seeing some comments coming through, which is great, and we can come back to these and have a look at them. Thank you to thank you to everybody who's putting your comments in there. I'll leave this window open for people to carry on. You can still see the slides, so if you wanted to move on to some further slides, and I'll keep the window open for another few minutes because it's interesting to see what people are putting in here. I will close that window down in a few minutes' time, but yeah, if we can just in the box underneath, just put how you're using ChatGPT and generative AI, and we will come to that, and we'll use that as part of our questions and so on later on. And thank you to everybody who's been commenting in there already so far. Thank you.
Yeah, interestingly, it looks like there's quite a few of us already that are using it for different aspects of content creation, content translation. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one and come back to it a little bit later on. I found this slide really interesting, and it's something that I've used a couple of times over the years actually, and some of you here will have been at the physical learning technology session that happens at Excel. It's now moved from February to May, and 5 months ago, we at Docebo decided to talk about generative AI. We have an authoring solution, Shape, that uses generative AI to help automate aspects of content production. And back then, I mean, you'll all remember the ChatGPT hype that started at the turn of the year. There were probably a few learning tech vendors that were actually openly talking about AI and how they were incorporating it into their solutions, generative AI, I mean. If I move forward, 2 weeks ago, we were at Unleash in Paris. Sorry. Those of you who don't know, it's the biggest HR tech event in EMEA. I think we could probably flip it. There were only a handful of vendors who were not talking about generative AI as part of their people technology solutions. And if we look at the stats in this chart, I mean, as I said, I've used this type of data before, and in previous roles, I've talked about the consumerization of learning and how we had to create digital learning experiences that were more akin to the experiences that you and I as consumers have in our day-to-day lives. And if you look at some of these stats, it's a bit smaller on my screen, but Facebook took 10 months to get to 1 million users. Spotify took 5 months to get to 1 million users. ChatGPT took 5 days. All that hysteria at the start of the year. And if we look to where we are now, 10 months later, there are just about 200 million users that are using ChatGPT on a regular basis. So the world is changing quickly. The workplace is changing quickly. And I think what we're going to look at today is how workplace learning is going to evolve and adapt and start to incorporate some of these new technologies as we move forward. And we love this. I actually stole this from one of my colleagues, so I should reference him. We now have a VP of AI, a guy called Giuseppe, who I'll talk about a little bit later on. But he delivered a presentation at Unleash around our AI capabilities. And he used this quote from Steve Jobs: "If the computer is a bicycle for your mind, then AI is a rocket ship that will give you superpowers." And really what we're saying here is that a bicycle can amplify what you're able to do physically. And the computing, the third industrial revolution took us to a certain level. As we now enter into this fourth industrial revolution, AI and the capabilities it provides, you'll have seen it every day on your LinkedIn feed. There's a massive conference going on in the UK at the moment where King Charles is speaking and world leaders, and Elon Musk has flown in as well. So it's a hugely exciting time, but it's also there are some areas of concern that we need to keep abreast of as well, and we'll focus on a few of those later on. But why is it so important for workplace learning? And I probably should have said, I mean, at the rush at the start of this webinar, really we're going to look at three sections today. We're going to look at why AI is so important for workplace learning. We're going to look then at what Docebo are doing and will do in the future. And then right at the end, and I need to save enough time for this, Fernando is going to give a really exciting demonstration of a pre-release tool that we think is going to take content authoring and the learner experience to the next level. And that's something that we'll look at, and I'll make sure I save enough time for that. But why is AI going to be so important for us as learning and development professionals? Well, firstly, we think it's important because we look at some macroeconomic trends. And you can see here the two key points to pull out are that we've got a declining population. Global fertility has collapsed, resulting in fewer people. But we've also got job openings now are outnumbering unemployed people who are seeking work. So there simply aren't enough skilled people to get the job done anymore. And for niche industries like ourselves, there potentially in the future, there are not going to be enough people to do the work. Now, this poses an interesting question, because one of the first things that people think about when we think about AI is it going to take away my job? What we're going to talk about today and what we're going to show you how it can amplify what you're able to do. And we can use those human interactions, the creativity, the critical thinking to almost let AI do some of the heavy lifting and produce content quicker, faster, and better in the future as well. The second piece that I want to look at here is how the landscape of learning is also evolving as well. Now, I know sometimes these charts don't show up very well. So at Docebo, we contracted with a major consultancy to do a piece of research for us about the learning landscape. The left-hand side of the chart, the left-hand chart shows the landscape 10 years ago, where the majority of training was based around onboarding and compliance. Really, we were focused on delivering learning solutions for the workforce, for the internal employees. If we move forward to where we are today, there are now, based on this study that we commissioned, there are twice as many opportunities for external training. So we talk about customer education, we talk about partner education here as well. And that means when we look at that data, that the size of the audience that we are potentially servicing when we deliver corporate learning solutions is growing exponentially. So we have larger audiences, we have more content to deliver, we have more learning programs to deliver. How are we going to be able to do that if we've got less skilled people coming into the workforce and we are time stretched and resource stretched as well? Well, really, this is where AI is here to help us. And this is where I wanted to get us to today, is to look at how we can start to integrate AI into the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis and look at some practical examples of how that's happening. And really, we think there's two ways that we can integrate AI into the workforce. I love this slide. And once again, this was shamelessly taken from my colleague. On the left side, we have the centaur, this mythical creature with the human's body, the human's head and the horse's body. And this is where you can get AI in this metaphysical metaphor is the horse's body. The AI is doing all the hard work. The AI is doing the computing. The AI is crunching the data, but we're still keeping that human brain and these elements I talked about before, the creativity, the critical thinking. On the right-hand side, we have the cyborg. And this is where we're fusing together, and we're actually relying on the AI to do the work for us. And we'll come back to this a little bit later on when we look at a couple of the examples. But the pace of progress is actually, it can be a little bit frightening. And sometimes I think we just need to take a step back and just take a breath and look at it, look at what we're dealing with here. So when we start to talk about our solutions and when we talk about AI, and I'm not going to get too entrenched into the technical jargon today. If you want to go into deeper conversations with us, we're happy to do that offline. But essentially here, and this is a terrible word to say in a seminar or webinar, LLM is the acronym, large language models. And we're talking about the pace of progress, because the more we feed these LLMs with data, the more sophisticated they become, and the more we're able to do. And if we look down the right-hand side at the types of use cases that now we're able to deliver, the joke explanation one always makes me laugh there. But there are use cases here, and there are solutions that we may not have even thought about months or years ago. And this is the pace of progress and this concept of a scaling law where this technology is growing exponentially. And we absolutely have to keep an eye on it. And it's important that we're having these conferences that are happening, for example, in the UK this week. But I think also it's hugely exciting, and it's an incredible time to be part of workplace learning. And that's what I want to move on to next to take a look at. So looking at Docebo solutions, as I said before, we think the future of learning is better, faster, and smarter. And like a lot of organizations over the last 12 months, we've been looking at our AI strategy, and we've been looking at what we think the future of workplace learning will be. Now, interestingly, Docebo, were one of the original pioneers of AI. We've been incorporating this into our LMS solutions for about 4 or 5 years, and I'll touch quickly on those in a little while. But we wanted to accelerate what we were doing. So we went out to the market and we looked at what was happening, and we actually acquired a company called Edugo.ai, if some of you want to have a look at their website. Now, they were really interesting for us because they were a language training organization, and they pioneered, using this LLM technology, a new approach to content design and delivery that created much more hyper-personalized experiences where the content was actually reacting to the learner's input. And that's what we're going to show you a little bit later on when we get to the Shape 2.0 demonstration that Fernando's going to deliver. Now, we think the future of learning will be better because we think it's fundamentally going to change. Now, our CEO, Claudio Erba, he's relatively bullish. He thinks that the future of content, as we know it, is going to change fundamentally and forever in the next couple of years, going from this relatively static page-turning type digital content where you have to follow a linear pathway to this hyper-personalized learning experiences where the content is adapting to the learner and the learning pathways can also adapt to the learner. And for me, this is hugely exciting. I've been involved in a few learning technologies organizations. I've actually worked in this sector for 20 years now. And one of my previous roles was in a company that delivered solutions for the academic sector. And I think in terms of this concept of adaptive learning and delivering personalized learning pathways that respond to the learner's input, we saw the academic world move forward a little bit quicker than corporate learning. But I think now we're at a place where corporate learning is catching up, and that's what we'll touch on. We also think the future of learning is faster. Now, faster doesn't always mean better, but I remember not so long ago, once again in a previous role, we were working with a an organization where we were developing content for them. And they were a GPS organization. And they wanted to develop content that trained retail associates around the world how to sell these GPS systems. Now, the challenge we had was that from the time period, from the point of a new product being finished internally to the point they wanted to get it to the market, there just wasn't enough time to create content. There also wasn't enough time to update content effectively. What we're going to show you today is how that we can use AI to automate some of these processes and make content more relevant and make it available to your learners more quickly. And the last piece, and this is where it starts to get incredibly exciting. And by the way, everything I'm talking to you about now, it's not just aspirational. This is stuff that we are working on and we talk about in terms of a roadmap that will be available from the start of 2024 onwards, is that we think the future of learning is going to be smarter. So we are developing this concept of an AI brain that will sit within our learning management system. The AI brain will understand your organization. It will use the LLM internally to understand all of the data that sits within your LMS. We can also, if you want, plug it into things like Google Drive, so it'll read all the documentation. We can even plug it into software that you're using as part of your tech stack. As an example, we use Gong for sales enablement. We can plug it into Gong and it can read the video sales calls that are happening. And as part of that, it can understand your organization, and it can then, when we look at the content delivery, when we look at how we want to create hyper-personalized learning pathways, it will understand your organizations and it will understand your individual learners. And this is where I think it's starting to get hugely, hugely exciting. So where are we now? As I said, we've been pioneering the use of AI for about 5 years. And we have AI inbuilt into our LMS. It's one of the taglines that if you go onto our website, you'll see we talk about having an AI-driven platform. And that, how does that transpire for the learners and for the administrators? And really, we're talking about two key pillars that we're trying to address. One is personalization, create more personalized learning experiences. The second is automation, so take away some of the heavy lifting on the back end and make these processes much more streamlined within the platform. So we have a virtual coach. A virtual coach can understand your learner, understand their role, and make content recommendations. We can have content recommendations built into the system based on your role, learning you've taken, what your peers have taken as well. We've developed an AI-powered deep search functionality. This allows when you're searching for content, not just to search the metadata, but the system will actually read the content itself, make content recommendations when we're searching. We've developed Docebo Shape. Now, to call Docebo Shape an authoring tool, I think probably does it a disservice. It's a new approach to content authoring, whereby we are able to upload source documentation and deliver micro-learning outputs from that. This was Docebo Shape in its first iteration. What we're going to look at when we go into the demonstration in a not too distant future is the second iteration and how we can create these very interactive and personalized learning experiences. And the fifth one, and everyone's talking about this, we have been for a couple of years now, is skills tagging. So reading content, understanding the skills that content relates to, and the new version is actually creating a new skills ontology piece where we can match skills that might not perfectly match. And this has been one of the issues with getting skills programs off the ground. There's a lot of heavy lifting in the background. Using AI as a sort of a simple example, if one of your technology vendors talks about performance management, another content provider talks about managing performance, we can now use AI to make the association with those two and match those skills ontologies as well. So once again, in that key theme of automation, taking away some of the heavy lifting and the tasks that previously would have had to be done by an administrator, but now we can automate and accelerate moving forward as well. the future AI capabilities, and I've touched on a couple of these, and like I said, this is to me where it gets hugely exciting, and where the integration of Edugo into Docebo's team has been it's been surprising how quick it's gone. I mean, the acquisition happened in June, and we're already at the point where we are delivering beta versions of products. And I think it's a testament to the people internally that were involved in this, and that they recognized what pioneering technology. Edugo was not just an AI-driven company; it was an AI learning company that was formed to deliver language training, had specific pedagogical techniques that it was delivering in the development and the delivery of the content. And we've been able to take these, extrapolate them, and what we'll be able to do is use them in a number of use cases. So Fernando in a minute is going to show you a sales enablement piece, but we can look at this for onboarding, we can look at this for coaching. There are a number of different internal learning use cases that we'll be able to focus on moving forward. And the second one is giving organizations full control over the AI. So we'll be developing, as part of this AI brain, an AI panel. It gives you the ability to control your data. This is obviously a huge concern, data privacy, when we're looking at AI programs. Looking at data anonymization, as an example, when we are using, taking real world sales conversations out of Gong, where we record it, we can scrape that data, we can anonymize it, so any customer references, any references to dollar amounts, they are anonymized in there as well. So we're hugely focused on that. I think it's incredibly exciting, but we also are very, very aware of how we need to be looking at things like data and privacy, and we've got a task force internally working on that. Okay, I think I've left enough time, Fernando. I'm going to go on mute. We're now going to look at what this actually looks like in real life. And yeah, as I said, we're hugely, massively excited to be able to show this to you today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. You've already mentioned a couple of really interesting things, your past experiences, and how this theory is great, but it should be brought back to planet Earth in a way. So how can we really use artificial intelligence? So in a real life situation, as you know, in your LMS, once we've configured all those different courses, once we have uploaded, those 3,000 videos, 200 presentations, 500 SCORM packages, etc. In our LMS, that's what we have, the whole company knowledge. And when it comes to creating those new pieces of content, we will be able to use or reuse all that great work that we've all put together. That's exactly what we are going to do now. We are going to show you how you will be able to use Shape, that new approach to content authoring, to really transform all those great documents that we have used, that we have created in the past. So here, this is basically what we are going to do. So you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, learning designer, and then we've got Docebo, and in a second, we are going to be able to see what we can do with all those different options. So maybe, Andrew, if you could please, if you don't mind, playing the video. In a couple of seconds, we are going to be able to see the real process, how we are going to be able to use Docebo Shape. Docebo Shape, as I was saying earlier, is a new approach to content authoring. And in terms of content authoring, we are going to be able to do a number of things. All those different documents, all those different videos that you might have created in the past, we will be able to transform them into engaging micro-learning pills. And on top of that, we will also be able to create an immersive training experience.
I'm hoping you can see my video. Can you see the video or not?
I'm still waiting for it, really.
Okay, bear me 1 second.
Sure.
You can tell we're having fun and games here, can't you?
It's one of those. If one of those days, it's all good. It's all good. So if you, as I was saying earlier,
we will get there.
Fantastic. As I was saying earlier, if you think about all those different documents and videos, presentations that you have already uploaded to your LMS, you will be able to reuse exactly There we go. We will be able to reuse any of those videos to create, to leverage artificial intelligence in order to create all those different shapes that we will show you in a second. On my screen, what you can see are the templates that we will be able to create. These templates are based on artificial intelligence. You can see here a couple of use cases. You can see, sales enablement. You can also see a couple of options on the right-hand side of the screen. And this is exactly what we are going to be able to use, what we are going to be able to leverage. All those different simulation experiences, learning content, etc. The templates can have also subcategories. This is how we are leveraging artificial intelligence already. You can see all the different types of content that we might want to create. Today, what we are going to do is we are going to create a piece of content, a shape, that will allow us to basically train our teams on how to deliver a perfect elevator pitch. You can see that we are already having an intelligent conversation with the platform, with Shape, that will basically allow us, once again, to use the artificial intelligence system of the platform. I was talking about all those different documents, all those different videos. So where the company knowledge has been included. You can see on my screen right now all those different documents that have been pre-selected. So the heavy lifting has been done for us. The legwork has been done by artificial intelligence. However, there is nothing like that critical thinking that Mike was sharing with us earlier today that will basically have the power to decide, okay, this is where I want to extract a number of ideas. This document, this video is not really relevant. This is where we will be able to combine those different approaches, the Centaur approach or the Cyborg approach that Mike was telling us about earlier. The shape, this micro-learning pill that we are creating, will be, as you can see on my screen, will be created in a matter of minutes. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen how all that heavy lifting has already extracted the main ideas, the main topics that we want to train that specific audience on, and we will always have the power to redefine any of those messages. You can also see that even the quizzes have been automatically created for us using artificial intelligence. On top of that, we will also be able to translate any of those different scenes. But what I wanted to show you now is how we will be able to have an immersive experience. We have automated the process of creation of this specific micro-learning pill, of this shape. What we can do as well is, in an immersive environment, I can actually practice everything that I have learned. As you know, I wanted to make sure that my sales teams can deliver the perfect elevator pitch. So the system will allow me, in this case, to really practice to deliver that elevator pitch. In a couple of seconds, what you are going to be able to see once we end this simulation, we have leveraged this part of artificial intelligence, but it's not only about practicing. It's about having a look at the results. As you are going to be able to see in a couple of seconds on the screen, the artificial intelligence system of the platform will also rate my elevator pitch. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the feedback that I have received. And if we keep on scrolling down on the left-hand side of the screen as well, you will be able to see how I've been doing, how my elevator pitch was in minute number 1, minute number 2. On the right-hand side of the screen, we can see also my rating. And if we keep on scrolling down, you will also be able to see, where my strengths are, areas of growth, etc. What does this mean really for us? This means that once we have automated all these repetitive parts of the learning experience, you can see also the energy, confidence, clarity, etc. So we really go into the details really. So once we have automated all these repetitive parts of what we have to do on a daily basis, especially in learning. If you go back to the presentation, please, Andrew, that would be great. So once we have automated all these different elements, we will be able to use our critical thinking, something that only humans can do, to really refine our strategy, what we want to do with those training materials, how we want to really change the training or the learning culture of our company. So basically, I would like to focus on these three key takeaways that I wanted to show you as well. So one of them is Copilot. So Copilot is a new authoring flow. So this uses natural language, and that means that it will make it very easy for anyone to really create content. AI Brain, I was telling you about all those different documents, all those files that have been uploaded to the LMS, where we have included the company knowledge. This AI Brain is what we will be able to use as well in order to create those micro-learning pills, and that's how we will be leveraging artificial intelligence. VRP, which stands for Virtual Roleplay System, that's how I will be able to have an immersive experience where artificial intelligence is leveraged again to allow me to learn better in a more efficient way. What's the results? So here we can see on the screen the results. It takes a human being over 40 hours to create a piece of content similar to what we have just done, and $10,000. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can also see how effective we can be when we leverage artificial intelligence. Going back to Mike's point earlier, artificial intelligence here is not our enemy. It will be our ally, especially from a learning and development perspective. Maybe just to give you a very quick overview in terms of that Copilot stack. So I'm not going to go into the details. So you can see here the UX, how easy it is for any users to really create any of those micro-learning pills. You can also see the orchestration. Here, I just wanted to maybe highlight that skill ontology, which is going to be the backbone of the micro-learning pill that we are going to create. I also wanted to highlight here things like, GPT, Llama, as well as Docebo LLM, which are some of the technologies that have already been mentioned by Mike as well. So these are the foundation models, but this is not the only thing that we're going to be able to do. The final results and being able to leverage all those different options and make sure that the learning process is as effective as possible will be as important as leveraging artificial intelligence in order to create those micro-learning pills.
Thank you, Fernando. We managed to catch up there.
You're on mute, Mike. There we go.
Oh, sorry. You can hear me now.
We can hear you now. Yes, we can.
Yeah, great. I want to thank you, Fernando, for that. I think we've managed to catch up. We wanted to leave a little bit of time for some questions. Before we do that, this is obviously a hot topic. We are also running an event in London at the Gherkin on the 28th of November. This is going to be a little bit more looking holistically at what the future looks like for humanity, for the workplace. We've got a futurist, that job title exists now, Richard Watson, who's joining us. We've got a QR code there. It's a breakfast event. If you want to come be part of that, just scan the QR code and enter your details. But yeah, hopefully you found that interesting. I was reading some of the comments in there. I mean, what we wanted to do today was give you a sense of what is going to be available in the future. Also to let you know that the future is now, and to let you know that we think this is an incredibly exciting time, and we need to learn how to work with AI to really take workplace learning to the next level. So, Andrew, I'm not sure if you've been sort of collating or curating any questions there that you'd like Fernando or I to go through.
Oh, I've got loads of stuff to loads of stuff to ask you. Thank you everybody for your questions, comments, and engagement. As I always say, it's always the conversations that go on in between. There are some really good questions in here. I want to pick one up first of all from Jovan Simovic. It's a wonderful question. I understand how AI will be able to help link and recommend and even help create or create on its own content. Interesting, content was the word that came up from the chat, which we'll come back to in a moment. But how would you be able to judge relevance or credibility of the content it recommends? And would it have a built-in content evaluation tool? How can you be sure that the content is relevant and valid and so on? I think it's a wonderful question.
Yeah, that is a great question. And as I mentioned during my section of the presentation, I mean, this is something that we've seen within academia for a while. Now, what we're going to be doing, and this is in the future, so this isn't in the near term, but what we'll be looking at is the system actually understanding learners, understanding how a learner is moving through the content, based on the learner's historical training records, how it potentially should be working with content, and if there are mismatches there. So if a learner is potentially struggling within a particular topic within a particular course, the assessment results aren't great. If we're doing a virtual simulation, then we will then be able to go back and look at two things. Look at actually the relevance of that content. Now that at the moment will be a human-led piece. So do we actually need to look at the content design there, but also look at the whether the student has gone through the right pathway to get to this particular point in their sort of learning history, if you like. So yeah, that's very much work in progress. But I think there is definitely something on the horizon for us, and it's something that I think we'll be looking at in the next 12 months or so. But that to me, where it gets massively exciting, not just looking at individual content creation pieces, but actually looking at creating personalized learning paths, but also being able to judge actually, is that content fit for purpose based on what we're seeing across the organization and how learners are interacting with it as well.
And that's also where the learn chain orchestration will come into play. I know that I've gone through that very quickly, but when I mentioned things like skill ontology, we are using artificial intelligence, applying pedagogical strategies as well. So one of the goals that we always have is, to get rid of that hallucination, if you like, those results that might look good, however, they might be false. And that's crucial as well when it comes to creating those pieces of content. I'm referring specifically to my part, to how you will be able to leverage also artificial intelligence to create micro-learning fields using Shape.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to go back to a question from Martin Federspiel. Would you still need a virtual coach if you have a robust knowledge management system?
Yeah, great question. I think my answer to that would be yes. I think within our solution, the ability for us to use this LLM modeling around your knowledge management system to understand your organization, understand your customers, the virtual coach then gives you the ability to put into practice what you will learn in theory throughout that course. So absolutely yes, the knowledge management system is really what feeds the virtual coach. The virtual coach then gives you a very, very immersive environment. And it doesn't always come through in video, but what we wanted to show you that the interaction is completely real time. There's no real lag. At the moment, it's an avatar head, but in the future, in the not too distant future, we will have a video-based avatar that you will be talking to. So it'll be a completely immersive experience. So yes, the answer is yes. We do see a requirement, or not requirement. We can see how a virtual coach would amplify working with a knowledge management system.
I agree with you, Mike. Based on the experiences or the successful projects that we've been part of, that hyper-personalized experience is crucial. It's something that will be even more and more instrumental in the future when it comes to how efficiently we can train our colleagues or our customers on XYZ. That hyper-personalized experience is something that we can achieve as well with a virtual coach, which is, again, another way for us to leverage artificial intelligence right now, right here.
Question from Josephine. Josephine, she identified in the chat actually to do with skills tagging and how skills tagging is such a hateful activity and task to do. And is there a timeline for that as an AI initiative? Skills tagging, is that something that you have on your timeline to be doing?
Yeah, the skills ontology piece, timelines are always a little bit fluid, like any SaaS company, but the skills ontology piece is, we're looking at the second half of next year. Yeah.
Good stuff.
I saw another interesting question there.
Have you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw the question from Johan Dines around the LLM, and is it accessing the latest information through the internet, or is it limited to what it's been trained on? I think this is where it's interesting, this concept of the AI brain for us, because I think there's a when we look at the potentially opening up to the internet, then there becomes sometimes a question of validity to your organization. What we're able to do with our AI brain is to train it internally on the data that exists within your organization, but also open that up, for example, for vertically for the industry that your organization sits within as well, if you want to. So you have the capability, John, to manage that. And if you wanted to keep it completely in-house and look at the data that exists, you can do that. If you wanted to open it up to look at the sort of the same industry that your organization sits in, you can do that as well. And this is where we're training our Docebo LLM. It's a LLM that we're developing ourselves, and I think that's where it gets particularly exciting.
And Ian picked up on that as well. He asked about connected working web links and so on. So there is that view of, is it internal only, is it external as well? How you work it as a KMS, LMS, all of those things combined. It's the interesting that's where the conversation is at the moment. What I did think, sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. Yeah, and I think all I want to say on that, and then we can move on, is that you have the ability to control that within the organization, which I think is going to be key. You can decide how you want to work with that data and who you want to work with. Yeah, exactly.
And it feels like that's where people are interested in, simply because we asked the question at the start, and what do you think of using it? I took all the responses that came in there, I ran them through a word cloud, and while you were speaking, and the big word in the middle out of all of them was content. Content is what everybody is thinking about using these technologies for. And I just think it's interesting is that it's how we're engaging it to use content and so on. I just think that interested in your thoughts on that. From is it just about making content easier? Is it or
great question. And I think this is why we use that analogy with the Mario. So and we didn't do this to sort of annoy any learning designers, but we had the sort of the 1990s pixelated Mario. Then when you add the AI superpowers, you get to a 2023 all singing, all dancing Super Mario that's turbocharged. And this is really where we see the power and the value, is that we can use AI to create much more personalized content, Andrew, that's much more immersive, and in the future can be completely personalized to the individual learner. Now, we can also still use that element, as we've mentioned before, the human element of creativity, critical thinking, to adapt and to edit the content as well. But in this ever-changing world where the businesses are changing, legislation's changing, whatever it may be, the ability to create this immersive content faster and more cheaply, we think that's what's going to be the game changer for workplace learning.
Great stuff. I'm just moving the slides about. You can see that we did have problems this morning, which is why I'm only just being able to put all the links and things in now and so on. So apologies to everybody. The link to the event is there, where the QR code wasn't working. So you've got the link to the event there. You've got links to Mike and Fernando's LinkedIn profiles. You can find me on LinkedIn as well as Andrew Jacobs L&D if you're looking for me. Question from Dave here, thinking about making access to content more relevant for the level of the learner, and it might come with some base knowledge. So we won't need that kind of linear learning that we've had before. Interesting. I mean, how how might your tool and how might AI tools change that linear kind of approach?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, and I think, and this is why I think back to my days delivering solutions for academia. Effectively, what we're looking at now, I think in the near future, and this isn't necessarily linked to a Docebo solution, but I think this is where we're going generally, is that content will be personalized and delivered based on the learner's needs. So if we think about the sort of the old school world where you have lessons and topics based on what we know about the learner and what the system knows about the learner from previous evaluations, we will be able to deliver very, very tailored content experiences that are specific to what that learner needs and the skills and the knowledge gaps that they may have at that particular time. So that's where I think the industry is going. That's not necessarily just linked to Docebo, but I think that's where it gets really, really exciting. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. And there's other questions we could spend more time on. We haven't got time, unfortunately. But again, Sean has picked up on this, and there was Leo picked up on this. There's the whole global cultural piece. Some cultures might not engage with this, and other cultures will. You know, there's the whole, you know, generation blah, generation X, Y, Z, you know, all of that. Will some people use it? Won't some people use it? You know, so there's a whole raft of conversations that we can carry on around that I think will be interesting to as part of the discussion that you have on the 28th. I just need to say thank you. Thank you to Mike, thank you to Fernando, and thank you to the audience for today. You've put up with some incredibly difficult circumstances that we've had this morning. Like I said, I can only apologise for that. Entirely down to us, not down to you. But you've actually stepped up and been brilliant. So thank you for that. Again, like I said, thank you to Mike and Fernando. You'll find their contact details, like I said, in for LinkedIn. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time where we've got David James from 360 Learning, and he's talking about future skills. I'm interested to see what he's doing on that one. We have had a question about whether the slides will be available to be downloaded. I'm assuming if people get in touch with you, then they'll be able to get a copy of the slides.
Happy for that. Yeah, not a problem at all. Yeah, happy to send them. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Thank you for putting up with the first 10 minutes of kerfuffle. And we're glad that you stayed with us. Leaves me to say thank you, everybody, again, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.